We've been fighting, 42 years now to prevent new development, and we've been pretty successful. There hasn't been a lot of new development for over a decade. But there is existing development, and we've had a really hard time getting rid of existing facilities, even when they come to the end of their lifetime. Like, for example, the Veneco Elwood facility and Platform Holly were supposed to have, expired and been removed over a decade ago, but they keep getting renewed, and they've been trying to figure out how to develop more from that area. And it's been really frustrating, and we've been fighting that steadily for, intensely now for a decade. And one of the things that they've been doing from the Veneco Elwood facility is running the Jovelon barge, which was the last single-hold tanker allowed to carry oil in the Santa Barbara Channel, and it's been going on for a decade. And now they've had to stop using that barge through successful efforts of GU and the Environmental Defense Center and other groups that have forced them now to they have to use a double-hold tanker, and they're going to build a pipeline, a land-based pipeline to move that oil so that it's not going out in the channel, because the most dangerous way to transport oil is in a tanker, and the worst way to do it is in a single-hold tanker, and that's how they've been doing it. Right. And it's been a real thorn in our side, but we've finally kind of got the upper hand in that situation, and they're going to be running it through a pipeline, which is much safer.
Yeah, and we saw that with Exxon Valdez. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Yeah,
I mean, it happens every year. There's a major tanker accident, and it's devastating wherever it happens.
Okay, so, you talked about the buyback program that's actually available. Can you talk a little bit more? I know that you have a Soul Force shirt on, alternative energy sources. Okay. Because I know that in today's society, everybody has a vehicle, and really getting away from that petroleum oil. What are other alternative energy sources that, as a nation, that we can switch over to? I know that you talked about the biodiesel.
Yep.
And how would we take it from being really a local, something that you did in your community, to a national effort?
Mm-hmm. Well, so my involvement within alternative energy has been kind of as a guinea pig. Initially, I wanted to try things on myself, see if they worked, and then if they did, maybe try to get other people interested in doing it. I started with solar power back in 1993. I've been solar powered since then. And once I saw that you could actually do it, and that you could just live a normal life as a regular person, but exclusively on solar electricity, it really changed my life, and it changed my sense of how I was living in the world and my relationship to my energy needs, and as a consumer. And when I stopped being dependent on the electrical grid at that point for electricity and became dependent on the sun and my own electrical solar system, it really helped my self-esteem. I felt much better about myself. And that's what led me to use biodiesel as a source of fuel for my vehicle, so I could run my vehicle on recycled waste grease, and kind of take some responsibility for that. And where I see this going with alternative energy for me and as for the country is with the advent of electric vehicles. You could get a solar-powered carport and park your electric vehicle under there, and your vehicle could be fueled by the sun. And this is starting this year. So I'm very excited about that, and I plan to do that myself. But for people, that can't do that, at least they can get an electric vehicle. And if we start developing more sources of alternative electricity in the grid, we'll see those vehicles become more renewable just by that more renewable portfolio within the grid itself. So what's happening with renewable energy on a bigger scale, commercial or industrial scale, the solar farms have been going in, and I'm not a huge fan of solar farms, honestly. I'm a huge fan of rooftop solar. I think solar panels should be put on roofs. There's enough roof space in this country to put solar panels on. There's enough roof space where we could put all the solar panels we need on roofs without using any undeveloped land. And so I tend to be in favor of that, as opposed to big solar farms in the desert or where they take up a lot of land to put solar panels where they could just put them on a roof. and that they'd be closer to where the energy was needed, and they wouldn't be taking up open space. So I see a great potential for rooftop solar in this country, huge. Wind energy, huge, huge potential, and we really need to tap that. And a couple companies have been developing ways to harness wave energy and the energy of ocean currents, and I think that there's a huge opportunity for development there. And those three things alone could really shift the balance away from coal and away from this. The idea of clean coal is a farce. We need to completely call that what it is, call a spade, and say, look, we're not going to, clean coal doesn't exist. There's no such thing. And nuclear power is a farce. They say it's a clean energy, but they've never successfully found a place to store nuclear waste in the United States. And until they have a permanent waste storage facility for that waste, it's totally unsafe, and it's a really bad idea. And so we've got to look at the things that work. Solar works, wind works, and maybe we'll be able to get tidal energy at a level that will help us. But that we have some resources here, and we need to be using those aggressively to address our energy needs.
Now, as far as are there government rebates and stuff that can be accessed by converting to some of these alternative energies?
Huge incentives right now. For new home construction in California, almost half of the solar electric system is paid for by government incentives. So you have a state rebate for new homes called the New Solar Homes Partnership. For existing homes, there's the California Solar Initiative program. They offer cash to people who want to put solar on their homes up front. This really helps people offset the initial cost of installation. There's also a federal tax credit. So the federal government will give you a credit for 30% of the net cost of a solar energy system to help stimulate the green economy, and also to help people have a solar system at their home.
Oh, that's really wonderful, and that's really really big incentive for people to really look at switching to alternative energy.
Yeah, it's really nice that finally the government's really gotten behind this.
So, because you're a 501c3, you yourself aren't able to get out there and be lobbying legislation. Do you have groups that do that on your behalf that you're working with?
We're allowed to do a certain amount of lobbying. I mean, all 501c3s are allowed to do a certain amount of direct and indirect lobbying, and we do that on the issues that are important to us, within the guidelines set by the IRS for that. But we work with other groups, and there are groups that are involved more in direct lobbying.
Okay.
We're more involved in the actual process, so the permitting process, the planning process, and the governmental process that brings these oil projects up for decisions and then implements them. And so we monitor that. We try to block things that we think are bad, and we try to force the implementation of safety measures that would prevent accidents. So, for example, acoustic valve technology is something that GOO advocates, which is a type of valve that wouldn't blow out the way that we had a blowout in the Gulf and wouldn't blow out the way we had the blowout at Platform A. It's not required in the United States. Other countries require it. In the North Sea, they use it. Things like this, where there are safety measures that are available that aren't being used. We're interested in seeing those implemented here in the United States, and so those are the kind of processes we primarily focus on, and less on the political things. But we, as we move forward, hopefully it'll be broader.
Is there GOO concept is just primarily California?
Mm-hmm.
And is it
one chapter, and it's here.
One chapter, okay. And are you looking at the offshore and onshore?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, oil production and development is what we look at, and we are very interested in both.
And is there things in California that we should be made aware of that we may not be, things that are maybe coming up in development that we should look out for?
Onshore development. They want to use, government land. They want to basically give government land to companies to do onshore oil development, and we're very concerned about that. So national forest land, what we've seen in other states with hydraulic fracturing and natural gas development is huge giveaways of federal land to petroleum companies to harvest resources, and they're looking to do that in California, and we're very concerned about